The headlines scream from newsstands across Manila. Philippines' national debt breaches new high. Trillions of pesos, numbers so big they feel distant. But the real impact of this debt is felt in the daily lives of Filipinos. Meet Aling Nena, a mother of three, shopping in a bustling Quezon City market. The price of rice has gone up again, the vendor blames transport costs, and the jeepney driver grumbles about fuel prices. These everyday struggles are the quiet echoes of that trillion-peso debt. The national debt isn't just a number, it's a silent guest at every dinner table, shaping what families can afford. Aling Nena's son, a fresh graduate, texts her about his job search. Companies are cautious, worried about the economy. High national debt makes businesses nervous, slowing hiring and turning dreams into waiting games. On the way home, Aling Nena sees a new skyway under construction, a symbol of progress, but also a reminder that these projects are funded by borrowed money. As she sits in traffic, she wonders, will these investments pay off or just add to the burden? The debt is both a burden and a bet on the future. For millions, the question is simple. Yuri Komori Traco bites will this gamble improve their lives? Every price hike, every job search, every new bridge, these are the real stories behind the headlines. The national debt shapes the rhythm of daily life, from the market to the dinner table. It's not just about numbers, it's about choices, trade-offs, and hope. The story of the debt is written in the lives of ordinary Filipinos. It's a story that starts with the rising sun and the sounds of a city waking up. The question remains, can the nation turn debt into opportunity? For Aling Nena and her family, the answer is still unfolding. The future of the Philippines depends on how this story is told and lived. How does a trillion-peso debt affect your daily life? Start with prices. When the government borrows heavily, inflation can follow. Your 100 pesos buys less at the market. Everyday essentials like fish, vegetables, and oil cost more, not by chance, but as a ripple from national borrowing. Jobs are next. High government debt can push up interest rates, making loans more expensive for businesses and families. Companies may delay hiring or expansion, making the job market tougher for everyone, especially new graduates. Government services also feel the squeeze. More debt means more of your taxes go to interest payments, leaving less for schools, hospitals, and roads. Delayed repairs, crowded classrooms, and underfunded hospitals are all part of the debt equation. And remember, today's borrowing is tomorrow's tax bill. Future generations will pay for today's choices. If debt funds growth, the future is brighter. If not, it's a burden passed down. The impact of national debt is personal, shaping prices, jobs, and public services. Every Filipino feels it, every day. The decisions made now will echo for years to come. Before 2020, the Philippines was building fast. Airports, roads, railways, hoping to fuel economic growth. The Build, Build, Build program was ambitious, funded largely by loans. The gamble invest now, grow the economy, pay back later. For a while it worked. The economy grew, debt was manageable, and new infrastructure promised a brighter future. Then, COVID-19 hit. Lockdowns shuttered businesses, jobs vanished, and the economy stalled. The government scrambled to provide ayuda, buy vaccines, and support hospitals, costs far beyond the regular budget. To respond, the Philippines borrowed even more, and fast. Debt, already rising from infrastructure spending, soared to new heights. It was a necessary move to save lives and prevent collapse, but it came at a steep price. The pandemic forced trillions in new debt almost overnight. Today's debt is the result of both planned investments and an unprecedented crisis. The nation faces the challenge of turning this debt into real, lasting progress. The question, can the Philippines grow fast enough to pay for both its ambitions and its emergencies? The answer will shape the country's future for decades. Every new road and every vaccine, bought with borrowed money, is part of this high-stakes story. The pandemic changed everything, and the price of progress is now measured in trillions. The next chapter depends on how wisely the nation moves forward. Two institutions steer the Philippine economy, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, BSP, and the Department of Finance, DOF. The BSP is the central bank, fighting inflation and keeping the peso stable. It manages the country's money supply, sets interest rates, and guards the nation's foreign reserves. If the peso weakens or prices rise too fast, the BSP steps in to steady the ship. The DOF, meanwhile, is the government's chief financial officer. It collects taxes, manages spending, and decides when and where to borrow. The DOF crafts fiscal strategy, working with Congress to pass tax reforms and budgets. When the government borrows, the DOF chooses the lenders, local or international. Together, the BSP and DOF balance monetary and fiscal policy, guiding the country through economic storms. Their teamwork is crucial for stability, growth, and managing the nation's debt. In times of crisis or calm, these two institutions are at the heart of every financial decision. The future of the economy depends on their coordination and expertise. National debt sounds huge, but context matters. Economists use the debt-to-GDP ratio to measure if a country's debt is manageable. Before the pandemic, the Philippines' ratio was a healthy 40%. After massive borrowing for infrastructure and COVID-19, it's now just above 60%. Crossing 60% is a warning sign. Too high, and growth can slow. Still, compared to countries like Japan or the US, the Philippines is in the middle of the pack. But for developing nations, high debt is riskier. Investors may demand higher interest, making debt costlier. Most countries took on more debt during COVID-19. The Philippines is not alone. The challenge now, grow the economy faster than the debt. That means boosting productivity, investing wisely, and keeping spending in check. The goal is to bring the ratio down, not just the raw numbers. The real test is whether the country can turn borrowed money into real, sustainable growth. The next few years will be critical. Not all debt is created equal. It matters who you owe. The Philippines' debt is mostly domestic, owed to local banks, funds, and citizens. This keeps interest payments circulating within the economy, supporting local markets. It's like paying interest to your own family. The money stays home. Domestic debt is more stable and less vulnerable to global shocks. External debt, borrowed in foreign currencies, is riskier. If the peso weakens, paying back dollar-denominated loans gets more expensive. That's why the BSP works hard to keep the exchange rate steady. A strong domestic debt profile shows confidence in the local financial system. It also reduces dependence on unpredictable foreign creditors. The structure of the debt, who it's owed to, matters as much as the total amount. For the Philippines, owing mostly to itself is a key strength. It makes the trillion peso problem a little more manageable. The government isn't ignoring the debt, it has a plan. First, the BSP maintains strong foreign reserves, a safety net for tough times. These reserves reassure investors and help pay for imports and external debt. Next, the DOF is modernizing tax collection, making it easier to pay and harder to evade. Every peso collected is one less peso borrowed. On spending, the government is tightening its belt, cutting waste, focusing on essential projects and demanding results. Fiscal discipline is key to lowering the debt-to-GDP ratio, but the real solution is growth. A bigger economy means more revenue and a lighter debt burden. Infrastructure investments are meant to spark this growth, making business easier and jobs more plentiful. The strategy requires patience, discipline, and good governance. The goal: turn today's debt into tomorrow's prosperity. It's a long game, but the stakes couldn't be higher. Managing the economy is a balancing act. Risks on one side, strengths on the other. The biggest risk: high debt leaves little room for error if another crisis hits. More debt means more money spent on interest, less on schools and hospitals. Inflation and high interest rates can slow growth and make borrowing costlier. Global shocks, like oil price spikes or recessions abroad, can hit hard. But the Philippines has strengths: a young growing workforce, steady remittances from overseas workers, and a mostly domestic debt profile. A young population means more workers, more taxpayers, and more economic energy. Remittances bring in foreign currency, supporting the peso and the economy. Most debt is in pesos, reducing risk from currency swings. The country's reputation for paying its debts helps keep borrowing costs reasonable. Prudent management by the BSP and DOF adds stability. These strengths provide a solid foundation to weather storms and pursue growth. The challenge is to leverage them wisely. The Philippines' debt story is about choices: investing in the future, protecting people in crisis, and now, managing the consequences. The path forward demands discipline, transparency, and shared effort. The government must spend wisely and collect taxes fairly. The private sector must invest and create jobs. Filipinos must stay informed and resilient. The nation's strengths, its people, industries, and global ties, are pillars for growth. The goal: inclusive progress, where opportunity reaches every Filipino. The journey is long, but the direction is clear. Success will be measured not in headlines, but in better lives and stronger communities. The future is within reach, if the nation walks the path together.